What about sports writers, as far as people who you feel influenced you? Were there any favorite writers as you're growing up and thinking like, this is kind of who I want to be like, or style my writing after this person?
Yeah, definitely Frank Deford and Scott Ostler were the original ones. And then Leonard Kopit, who did all the stats for Sporting News. I don't know if you remember. It might have been before your time. He ended up at the Peninsula Times Tribune. So I got like the stats stuff from Leonard Kopit, but the writing, I always tried to copy first Scott Ostler, because he was funny. But now I don't do that much humor because it offends people. But every bit of humor offends people. So I have to sneak in my humor in so subtle ways that most, like, people who know me will see it in the Observer, but most people will not, so they don't get offended by it. But and then the writing style, I can't write like Frank Deford. Nobody can, but it was, definitely reading his stuff. So those would be the people for sure.
And Scott Ostler's still writing for the Chronicle. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's still writing like about tons of stuff. So that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah. It was funny. Scott Ostler did a story when Bruce Brody died. And, it was weird for me because this is 88. So it's before I met Frank Deford. And so it's like, oh my God, Scott Ostler, like my idol, doing a story. And then Frank Deford, when he called, that was like the weirdest thing because it was almost like the entire conversation, the first conversation I had with Frank Deford when he asked me to write for The National, it was like I had already had like a premonition of it before it ever happened. It was like surreal because it was like, I didn't know he was, as soon as he called, it's like, oh my God, there's only one reason he's calling at this stage. Cause I knew about The National. I knew about Frank Deford. And it was just kind of like, this is like, that was really surreal. And that was, to me, it's funny because to me that was really my big break because that was what allowed the Observer, to me to build my name to where people bought the Observer at a much more subscribers I gained in that year period to where from that point on, it was still, it was going to do okay either way, but that year was a big game changer and a life changer in so many ways. And it's funny to me because when whatever it was a couple years ago, there was like this nostalgia for The National. I think it was like maybe the anniversary, the 20th anniversary of it starting, maybe.
Yeah, I think the Athletic wrote some oral history on it or something too.
Right. But even before that, like some people would, go back because The National is so much, I actually, the Athletic is very similar to The National in a lot of ways. But the thing is that like The National was a great idea at the wrong time. It's just, they couldn't get, like if they did the same thing, like at the beginning of the website thing or whatever, and started this thing, it would have been, I think it would have been a pretty big success. It would have been done differently. But when they did it then, you couldn't get distribution in most of the country and you couldn't get the West Coast scores in. And there was just all these problems that just doomed it in a lot of ways. But, it was funny when I would read these stories about The National and people would go like, oh, look at the lineup of superstar writers they had. And my name would be there. And it's like, fuck, I wasn't a superstar writer. I was just some guy that they called, it's like, but it was weird because it's like they put me in there with like the guys that were the real high paid guys there that, were the guys that he rated from the big newspapers. And like, I was one of them and I was not one of them, but because of, later reputation, people think that, oh yeah, we got Dave Meltzer, the wrestling writer, that wasn't that, it's like, whatever, and then when Howard Cosell in his book ripped me for doing that, I was so mad. God, he wrote an Cosell was writing about what's wrong with media, and it's like The National hired a wrestling writer and Frank Deford works directly with him, which is actually true. He did.
Yeah.
And it's just like, like what has happened. It's like, fuck. It's like, you don't even read what I write. You know what I mean? You're just doing this. It's just like, I was like, and
he's
I
best friends with Muhammad Ali, who uses pro wrestling as a way to promote himself.
Yeah, I always have. I mean, I'm not as good at this as I wished I could be because of time, but I do like try so hard. If like anyone from college, now I'm going to do myself. If anyone from college like has a paper or an article or something, like I'll put that in front of like major media, not major, not the top media, not but most media, to get back to them. I mean, I try because of Howard Cosell. Did I tell you the Howard Cosell story? When I was in college?
No, I don't think so.
So I was in college, and it was San Jose State, and they had this the annual sport, not news. It was the newspaper awards for all the college newspapers, and they sent me to win, which I didn't, for best sports thing on the fly, because they just thought that like I would go in there and I would get everything right, and I would write a good story faster than anybody else. So they sent me there, and I didn't win. And I was so mad because I actually did get the facts better than like all the other stories, but whatever, you know what I mean? It's the judges voted for somebody else. But the night before the competition, there was a boxing match I think it's in Stockton or Sacramento. I'm pretty sure Stockton. So we're all in the same hotel with Howard Cosell.
Oh, wow.
And because when he was doing boxing.
Yeah.
And so it was like me and a friend of mine at the paper who was also sent there. We knew about it, and it's just like, Howard Cosell was one of my heroes because I grew up in New York with, Howard Cosell and the whole Muhammad Ali thing, and he was the guy. And my friend who was there was just like, hold on. What are you doing? So my friend was actually the one with the idea and just goes, we're going to interview Howard Cosell. And I go, no, we're not. We're not going to interview Howard Cosell. And it's just like, we can just call, back then, I don't think they had much security because literally, we could just call, oh, we're calling for, from the hotel. Oh, we're calling for Howard Cosell's room. And they put us through. And, one of the guys there was, doing that. And, the guy made it. I didn't talk. It was my friend. And he made his pitch. And, and he was so confident, it's like we're, students at San Jose State, and, he's going to want to talk to us just because we're students and we're going to win awards. We're there to win awards. I mean, we're the top writers, and the guy said, Howard Cosell has like no interest whatsoever in talking to you. Like he couldn't have rebuffed it more strongly. So I was like, that was like one of those things where I will never do that ever. And I never did. It's like, I can't say like every single person from, but that's how Ariel Helwani and I became friends.
Right.
He was doing at Syracuse, I think. He was doing like something, and he asked, and he was already a subscriber at the time. So I knew his name, obviously. And, but it was like, that was like the, so I can look at that and just go, that is the difference between me and Howard Cosell, because when Ariel Helwani asked, it was like, and I didn't know him from anyone at the time. Mm-hmm. It was just like, because of, I remember it's like, because of what Howard Cosell did, I am absolutely doing this show with Ariel Helwani. So that's how life goes full circle.